My beloved child, listen carefully, because what happened when you became silent was not ordinary, and the people around you felt it before they understood it. The moment you stopped explaining yourself, something shifted in every room you entered. The same voices that once spoke over you suddenly became uncertain. The same people who thought they understood your next move could no longer read your silence. And that silence became louder than every argument you never joined. Do not skip, because something huge is waiting for you in this message. There was a time when they expected immediate reactions from you. They expected answers, defenses, long conversations, and emotional proof that their words had reached your heart. They were prepared for the version of you that always tried to make everything clear, the version that kept giving chances, the version that kept returning to conversations that had already taken too much from your spirit. But then you changed. You became still. You answered less. You stepped back without announcing why. And that was the exact moment everything began to move differently around you. They noticed the silence first, but they did not understand it. They thought it was temporary. They believed you would soon return to the old pattern, speaking again, explaining again, proving again. Yet every day that passed without your reaction made them more restless than before. Stay till the end, because what they felt after your silence is something almost no one talks about. Some people were comfortable only when they could predict you. They relied on your responses. They relied on your openness. They relied on your willingness to keep every door unlocked even after disappointment. But when you became quiet, they lost access to the part of you they thought would always remain available. And suddenly, your silence forced them to face themselves. That is why they fell silent too. Because silence has a way of returning every hidden thought back to the person carrying it. The ones who once judged quickly now had time to hear their own words echoing. The ones who underestimated you began replaying every moment they ignored your value. The ones who believed your patience meant weakness started realizing they may have misunderstood your strength completely. And while they were trying to understand what happened, you were learning something greater. Not every battle deserves your voice. There are moments when silence becomes protection. There are moments when silence becomes wisdom. And there are moments when silence becomes the strongest answer anyone can give. Do not skip now, because this next part matters deeply. Your silence was not emptiness. It was not surrender. It was not defeat. It was the sound of inner rebuilding. While others imagined you were withdrawing, something powerful was happening inside you. Your thoughts became clearer. Your emotions stopped being controlled by outside noise. The confusion that once surrounded your decisions began to disappear. You started hearing what mattered. You started noticing who only appeared when they needed something. You started seeing which conversations drained your peace and which people only came near when your light was useful to them. And once you saw clearly, you could never return to blindness. That is why your silence became unforgettable. Because when someone who used to speak often becomes intentional with words, everyone notices. Some became uncomfortable because your silence exposed how much unnecessary noise had surrounded your life. Some became afraid because they could no longer influence you the same way. Some became curious because they sensed you were no longer reacting from emotion, but from understanding. And some became silent because they realized they had already said too much while you said almost nothing. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. There is a reason silence unsettles those who never expected you to grow beyond their expectations. When you stop chasing explanations, people begin questioning their own certainty. When you stop correcting every misunderstanding, people begin wondering if they misjudged you. When you stop asking to be understood, the same people who ignored your voice suddenly start listening for every small word. This is why your silence changed the atmosphere. Without effort, without announcement, without argument, you created distance strong enough to reveal truth. And truth always changes relationships. Some people respected you more. Some stepped back because they no longer felt control. Some watched quietly because they sensed something had awakened in you that would not sleep again. And the most surprising part is this: many of them never expected your peace to become stronger than their opinions. But it did. The version of you that needed immediate answers is fading. The version of you that protects peace is rising. And because of that, the silence around you is not empty, it is full of unseen movement. Even now, there are people trying to understand why your absence feels heavier than your presence once did. Even now, there are minds replaying your last words because there were so few. Even now, there are hearts recognizing that your silence carried more meaning than long conversations ever could. Do not skip, because the next truth may explain everything you have recently felt. Not every silence is meant to disconnect. Some silence is preparation. Some silence is where strength is formed quietly before anyone sees the result. Some silence is where identity returns after too much outside pressure tried to shape it. And sometimes, silence is the beginning of a new chapter that others cannot enter until they learn to respect what they once ignored. You did not become silent because you had nothing to say. You became silent because you learned that not every listener deserves access to your deepest thoughts. That lesson changes everything. Because once you understand the value of your own peace, you stop spending words where they will only be misunderstood. And when that happens, people notice the difference immediately. The same people who overlooked your words begin searching for meaning in every pause. The same people who dismissed your kindness begin wondering if they lost something rare. The same people who expected easy access begin facing closed spaces they never imagined would exist. Stay with this until the end, because something huge is waiting for you, and this message is not finished yet. There is a powerful reason your silence feels different now than ever before. It carries decision. It carries maturity. It carries awareness. It carries the quiet certainty that you no longer need approval to continue becoming who you were meant to be. That quiet certainty is what they feel, even if they cannot explain it. That is why they fell silent too. Because when someone truly begins to know their worth, noise loses power. And once noise loses power, truth begins speaking without words. What they called distance may actually be your growth. What they called change may actually be your clarity. What they called silence may actually be your strongest season yet. And before this moment passes, remember this carefully. Not everyone understands silence when they are used to control. Not everyone understands peace when they are used to confusion. Not everyone understands strength when it arrives quietly. But silence has already begun doing what arguments never could. And what comes next will reveal even more, and now hear this carefully. What happened after your silence became visible was even more surprising than the silence itself. The people who once moved confidently around you began changing their tone without realizing it. Their words became slower. Their certainty became weaker. Their energy shifted because they could feel that something in you had crossed a line they could not pull back. Do not skip, because something huge is waiting for you in the next few moments. There are changes that happen loudly, where everyone notices immediately. But the deepest changes often arrive quietly, and only those watching closely understand that something irreversible has taken place. Your silence was one of those changes. Because when you stopped giving instant access to your thoughts, people had to face a version of you they had never prepared for, a version that no longer rushed to prove goodness, no longer rushed to answer every doubt, and no longer carried the burden of being understood by everyone. That is where the silence became powerful. Many around you expected your quietness to break quickly. They assumed eventually you would return to old patterns, return to old explanations, return to old emotional responses. But the longer you remained calm, the more they realized this was not temporary. Stay till the end, because what they understood next changed everything. They began noticing that your silence had direction. It was not confusion. It was not distance without meaning. It was intention. And intentional silence speaks louder than repeated words. Some people suddenly became careful with what they said around you because they sensed your attention had sharpened. Some became unusually reflective because your silence left space for truth to rise inside them. Some even felt uncomfortable because they realized your quiet presence was revealing things they had hidden beneath ordinary conversations for a long time. That is the strange power of silence. It does not chase truth, it makes truth surface. Do not skip, because something rare is hidden in this part. There were people who believed your kindness meant they would always understand you completely. But kindness and predictability are not the same thing. The moment you learned when not to speak, your value became impossible to measure through old assumptions. They had seen your patience before. They had seen your generosity before. But now they were seeing something they had not expected: discipline. The discipline to remain calm when others expected reaction. The discipline to remain steady when others expected emotional answers. The discipline to protect peace even when silence was misunderstood. And that discipline changed how your presence was felt. Without effort, you became harder to read, but stronger to remember. That is why even those who said nothing began thinking more about you than before. Because silence leaves room for imagination, and imagination often reveals how deeply someone was paying attention all along. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. There is another truth few people realize: when a chosen person becomes silent after understanding their own worth, old energies lose their influence. The same words that once disturbed you begin losing weight. The same opinions that once felt heavy begin sounding distant. The same situations that once demanded immediate response no longer control your peace. And this creates a silent shift so strong that others can feel it without knowing why. That is why they became quieter too. Because they sensed they were no longer speaking to the same version of you. Your silence told them that growth had happened privately. Your silence told them that certain doors inside you had closed, not in anger, but in wisdom. Your silence told them that some lessons had finally become permanent. And when lessons become permanent, behavior changes naturally. Do not skip, because the next thought may explain what you have recently noticed in people around you. Have you seen how some people suddenly watch more and speak less? Have you noticed how some who once spoke freely now seem uncertain before they approach? That is because silence creates reflection in others. They begin replaying past moments. They begin remembering things they ignored. They begin sensing that your quietness carries understanding they cannot easily challenge. And that understanding creates respect, even when unspoken. Sometimes they will never admit it openly. Sometimes they themselves do not fully understand why your silence affects them. But they feel it. They feel that something has matured inside you. They feel that your peace now has boundaries. They feel that your attention is no longer available for everything. And that realization changes how they move around you. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you, and this part matters deeply. Your silence also protected something sacred, your energy. Words given in the wrong place often weaken what is growing quietly inside. But silence guards what is still becoming strong. That is why not every thought needs explanation. That is why not every moment needs response. That is why not every misunderstanding needs correction. Sometimes the strongest path is allowing truth to reveal itself over time while you remain steady. And that steadiness has already begun creating results you cannot fully see yet. Some doors are becoming clearer because you are no longer distracted. Some relationships are revealing their true shape because you are no longer filling every silence for others. Some answers are approaching because your mind has become quiet enough to notice what was always there. Do not skip now. Because there is one more thing you must hear clearly. The silence that others noticed was not the end of your voice. It was the beginning of stronger words. Because when words return after meaningful silence, they carry weight. They carry clarity. They carry direction. And they cannot be ignored. That is why this season matters so much. You are learning the difference between speaking to be heard and speaking because the moment truly deserves your voice. That difference changes everything. And many around you are already sensing that the next chapter of your life will not sound like the last one. Because now your silence has taught you what noise never could. And what comes next may surprise even those who thought they understood you completely, but there is something even deeper hidden inside your silence, and very few people around you have understood it yet. What they noticed on the outside was only the beginning. What truly changed happened where no one could see. Inside your thoughts, inside your decisions, inside the quiet place where you finally stopped asking whether everyone would understand you. Do not skip, because something huge is waiting for you in this part. There comes a moment when silence is no longer just an absence of words. It becomes evidence that your heart has learned what your past kept trying to teach you. You began noticing that not every conversation deserved access to your energy. You began noticing that some people only felt comfortable when you kept explaining yourself again and again. You began noticing that your peace became stronger the moment you stopped entering every unnecessary discussion. And once you noticed that, your silence became intentional in a way that changed everything around you. That is why people became quieter too. Because they were suddenly standing before a version of you that did not react the way they expected. Some were waiting for old patterns. Some expected familiar answers. Some thought one more word from them would pull you back into the same cycle. But your silence remained steady. Stay till the end, because what they understood next is something almost no one prepares for. When a person becomes silent after deep inner growth, others begin hearing their own thoughts more clearly. Without your reactions filling every space, they began sitting with the weight of their own words. Without your explanations guiding every misunderstanding, they had to examine what they had assumed. Without your immediate presence in every emotional moment, they began realizing how much they had depended on your openness without fully valuing it. And that realization created an unexpected silence around you. Because truth often arrives quietly before anyone speaks it aloud. Do not skip now, because the next truth may explain why certain people suddenly seem different around you. Some people did not fall silent because they had nothing to say. They fell silent because they sensed your silence carried certainty. And certainty changes the atmosphere of every relationship. When someone knows who they are becoming, their calm begins speaking before their words do. Your silence told them that you no longer needed every answer immediately. Your silence told them that not every opinion would enter your heart. Your silence told them that your direction had become stronger than outside noise. That kind of quiet confidence cannot be ignored. Even people who never planned to notice you began noticing. Even those who once overlooked your value began watching more carefully. Because silence, when it comes from growth, creates a presence stronger than constant explanation ever could. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. The most surprising part is this. While others were trying to understand your quietness, you were recovering pieces of yourself that had been scattered across too many conversations, too many expectations, too many moments where you gave more than necessary. Silence gathered your strength back. Silence returned perspective. Silence showed you who truly respected your peace and who only preferred your availability. And once that became clear, your heart could no longer pretend not to know. That is why this season feels different. You are not simply being quiet. You are becoming selective. You are learning where your words create meaning and where they disappear without value. You are learning that some doors remain peaceful only when fewer voices enter them. And this lesson is making you stronger than many realize. Do not skip, because the next part matters deeply. There are people around you who still wonder whether your silence means distance, but what they fail to see is that silence can also mean clarity. It can mean that your mind is no longer divided. It can mean that your spirit has stopped running after approval. It can mean that your peace has finally become more important than being constantly understood. And when peace becomes that important, everything changes. You begin choosing responses carefully. You begin noticing hidden intentions more quickly. You begin protecting moments that once would have been given away too easily. That quiet protection is powerful. It is why your presence now feels different even when you say very little. Some people sense it immediately. Some feel it slowly. But everyone who watches closely understands that something in you has become anchored. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you, and this next thought may stay with you for a long time. The silence that surprised others also revealed something unexpected. You were never weak for caring deeply, you were simply learning when care must be guided by wisdom. Now your kindness has boundaries. Now your attention has direction. Now your words wait for meaning instead of rushing toward every moment. And because of that, people who once thought they understood you completely are now realizing they only knew one chapter of your life. They did not know what silence would build inside you. They did not know that quiet seasons often create the strongest transformations. They did not know that the person who steps back in peace sometimes returns carrying a completely different strength. Do not skip. Because what happens after this silence may be the most surprising part of all. Soon, the same people who grew quiet around you may begin noticing that your silence was never emptiness, it was preparation. Preparation for clearer choices. Preparation for stronger direction. Preparation for a life where your peace is no longer negotiated by every outside voice. And when that becomes visible, even more will understand why everything changed the moment you stopped speaking the way you used to. Because sometimes the strongest message is not spoken loudly. Sometimes it is carried by calm eyes, patient timing, and a heart that has learned exactly when silence is more powerful than words. And what comes next will reveal just how much your silence has already changed the story. And then came the moment they could no longer ignore. Your silence began producing results no one expected. At first, they thought your quietness was temporary. They assumed it was only a passing phase, a short distance, a brief pause before everything returned to what it had always been. But days passed, your calm remained, and suddenly they realized this silence was building something stronger than words ever had. Do not skip, because something huge is waiting for you in this part. What they could not understand was that while they were waiting for a reaction, you were learning how powerful it is to move without announcing every thought. That changed your energy completely. When someone stops explaining every feeling, their presence becomes harder to predict. When someone stops answering every expectation, their value becomes harder to measure. When someone becomes peaceful without needing permission, everyone around them feels the difference. And that difference is exactly why they became quieter than before. Because your silence forced everyone to observe instead of assume. Stay till the end, because the next truth explains why your quiet season feels so important. Some people only understood your value when your words became rare. When you were always available, they thought your presence would always remain easy to reach. When you answered quickly, they assumed your patience had no limit. When you kept speaking kindly, they imagined your openness would never change. But silence taught them what constant words could not teach. It taught them that even gentle hearts know when to step back. It taught them that calm people also have boundaries. It taught them that peace can become stronger than explanation. And once they felt that, their own voices became uncertain. Do not skip now, because something rare is hidden here. The reason your silence felt powerful is because it arrived without anger. You did not need dramatic words. You did not need long speeches. You simply became still, and that stillness began revealing who truly understood your worth. Some came closer with new respect. Some became careful because they sensed your attention had changed. Some remained distant because they no longer knew how to approach the version of you that no longer rushed to fill every silence. That is the hidden effect of growth. It quietly changes every connection around you. And often, people recognize your transformation before they find words for it. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. There is another reason they fell silent after you changed. Your silence removed distractions. Without unnecessary words, people could suddenly see your steadiness more clearly. Without repeated explanations, your choices began speaking for you. Without chasing understanding, your peace became visible. And visible peace has a powerful effect. It unsettles confusion. People who once thought they understood your limits began realizing they had only seen your patience, not your strength. Because patience and weakness are never the same thing. And now your silence is teaching that lesson without effort. Do not skip, because this next thought may explain what you are feeling right now. You may think nothing is happening while you remain quiet, but silence often creates movement you cannot immediately see. While you are protecting your peace, minds are changing. While you are choosing calm, perceptions are shifting. While you are speaking less, people are observing more carefully than ever before. That is why silence can never be mistaken for emptiness. Silence carries weight when it comes from understanding. And your understanding has deepened more than many realize. Now you notice what once escaped your attention. Now you hear what words used to cover. Now you sense which spaces deserve your energy and which spaces only consume it. That awareness is changing everything. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you, and this may be the strongest part yet. The most unexpected truth is this: some people respected your silence because they saw strength in it, but others feared it because silence gave them no control over your thoughts. When people cannot predict your next word, they begin paying attention differently. When your peace no longer depends on their reactions, they feel the shift immediately. When your calm remains steady, they realize something inside you has become anchored. And anchored people cannot be easily shaken by passing noise. That is why your silence feels unforgettable. It is not only that you stopped speaking often. It is that your silence now carries direction. It carries maturity. It carries the quiet message that you have learned when to step back without losing yourself. Do not skip now. Because what comes after silence is often what changes everything permanently. Soon, those who watched quietly will understand that your silence was never withdrawal, it was preparation. Preparation for clearer words. Preparation for stronger decisions. Preparation for a season where your presence speaks before you even begin talking. And when that season fully appears, the same people who became silent will finally understand why everything changed the day you chose peace over unnecessary words. Because silence was never the end of your voice. It was the moment your voice began gathering power. And what comes next will carry more weight than anything they expected. And finally, this is the part almost no one sees until much later. Your silence did not only change how others looked at you, it changed what began opening in front of you. The moment you stopped giving your energy to every noise around you, space appeared for something greater to enter your life. Do not skip, because something huge is waiting for you in these final words. There are seasons when speaking less is not loss, it is alignment. While others were trying to understand why you became quieter, unseen changes were already beginning around you. Thoughts became clearer. Decisions became stronger. The things that once confused you no longer held the same power. That is because silence often clears what noise keeps hidden. And once clarity arrives, life begins revealing truths that were always present but impossible to notice before. Stay till the end, because the next truth may explain why your spirit feels different now. The people who became silent after you changed were reacting to something they could feel but could not name. You no longer carried the same need to be immediately understood. That freedom changed your presence. When someone no longer needs constant approval, their calm becomes unforgettable. When someone no longer runs after every explanation, their stillness becomes powerful. When someone learns to protect peace without closing the heart, others sense a maturity that words cannot imitate. That is what happened to you. And because of that, even silence around you became meaningful. Some people stepped back because they felt your boundaries. Some became thoughtful because your quietness made them reflect. Some watched from a distance because they sensed you were entering a season they could not interrupt. Do not skip now, because something huge is waiting for you. What they did not realize is that silence was preparing your next chapter. Not a chapter built on proving yourself. Not a chapter built on answering every doubt. But a chapter built on steady direction. The strongest growth often happens when no one fully understands what is changing inside you. That is why this season matters so much. Your silence has been teaching patience. Your silence has been teaching discernment. Your silence has been teaching you how powerful calm becomes when it is connected to inner certainty. And inner certainty changes every decision that follows. Stay till the end, because this final revelation carries everything together. The reason the title of your story is so powerful, "They All Fell Silent After You Did This," is because silence exposed what words had hidden for a long time. It showed who respected your peace. It showed who only understood your old patterns. It showed who could feel your growth even without explanation. And most importantly, it showed you that your voice becomes strongest when it is no longer given away without purpose. That lesson is rare. Many people spend years speaking without being heard because they never discover the strength of intentional silence. But now you know. You know that silence can protect what is valuable. You know that silence can reveal truth faster than argument. You know that silence can shift an atmosphere more deeply than repeated explanations ever could. Do not skip, because this final moment matters deeply. There will come a time very soon when the same people who became quiet will understand that your silence was not distance, it was transformation. They will see that your calm created stronger choices. They will see that your patience built clearer direction. They will see that your quiet season was not empty, it was full of unseen preparation. And by then, you will already have moved further than they expected. Because silence gave you something powerful. The ability to hear your own direction without interruption. That is why you must never underestimate what this season has built inside you. Every quiet decision mattered. Every moment you chose peace mattered. Every time you refused unnecessary noise, something stronger was being formed. Stay till the end, even now, because something huge is waiting for you beyond this moment. The story does not end with silence. The story continues with presence. A stronger presence. A clearer presence. A presence that no longer needs many words to be felt. And when you finally speak in the next chapter, your words will carry a weight that silence prepared carefully. That is why they became silent. Because before you said anything new, your silence had already said everything they needed to hear.